Welcome back to the Steel Podcast YouTube channel. We are finally back with another video. It has been far, far too long, but a little explanation. We have very busy lives during the school year, especially during the end where exams are coming up. And because of all just the different schedule complications we had, we both play on different sports teams. We both have school exams. So summer is finally here, school is finally done, and with that being said, our schedules do open up quite a bit. So hopefully we will get a summer series going and keep going. I know we've been absent for a while. We missed the vast majority of the season, and that was not our plan. Obviously, we didn't intend to do that, but that's where we're at, and we're ready to make some episodes. We're ready to get back into the baseball season, and we've obviously been following it on our own, and so we're ready to talk baseball and just get right back into it. Obviously, if you're new to the channel, then you can find us on Instagram at The Steel Podcast, where we're back to posting regularly. We do a lot of content over there. And that being said, let's just get right into the video. So to start with baseball, let's just go over kind of what has happened since we've been gone. First of all, you're a Red Sox fan. I'm the Yankees fan. So obviously you've had a bit of a better start to the season than we would have thought. Let's start by just breaking down the AL East real quick, because that's obviously where both of our teams lie, where we follow the most baseball. And it's been an up and down season in terms of just the teams. They've been all over the place, and we've got 4 competitive teams coming down the stretch of the season. How are you feeling about where the Red Sox lie, and especially just what the AL East has shaped up to be so far?
Well, I'm going to be completely honest. This isn't the team I expected this year. It's more the team I expected in 2019 necessarily, because after the atrocious performance last year and the poor one in 2019, I was like, okay, we haven't made that many changes. This is just going to be another bad season. But the lineup just picked up where it left off, and the rotation's actually pitching well to general astonishment. So it's feeling great right now. I mean, I think Matt Barnes was the reliever of the month one month, and this dude, the whole bullpen was just atrocious last year. So we're in a great spot. We have like the 3rd or 4th best record in baseball, which is behind the Rays. We'll be about maybe the second team to 40 wins, I think, if we win tonight, although that's not looking so good right now.
Yeah, no, you're definitely a top team in baseball right now, which I did not expect at all, because frankly, going into the offseason, I felt like I didn't see much pitching improvement, and I felt like I didn't see much bullpen improvement. So there gave me really no reason to believe that this team would show up in the way that it did. We knew the lineup was there. That was never a question. It has been there over the past couple seasons, but with the pitching we saw, it was really no question. I mean, one of the worst records in baseball last season. And so, granted, it was a shortened season, but we're about just over 60 games in now, and the Red Sox are a completely different organization. So that 180 is huge. And what do you attribute it to? Because the pitching got better, but why? I mean, is there an explanation, or is it just guys getting better at the right time? Like, what's going on right now? Because as far as I can say, yeah, there's some fresh talent, but what is really the explanation that this starting rotation is doing so much better?
Well, there's really one thing I can attribute it to, other than us loading up some pine tar on the baseball and improving our RPMs, like generally every pitcher in the majors, I feel like. So I think that's a whole nother issue. When most pitchers are doing that, it's a separate thing. But only other thing I could think of was we have Alex Cora back as manager. Could be using the pitchers better. And I do think we probably just improved as a rotation, improved as a bullpen. And I think there's more energy surrounding the Red Sox. We got a lot of young guys that are AAA and major leagues, and you can move them back and forth, and it's really exciting. I mean, Bobby Dalbec must be hitting like 240, but it seems like he's hit the most clutch home runs. Christian Arroyo, all these guys that we didn't have last year, Alex Verdugo, that have improved, have so much more excitement this year, and we're actually winning. So I think that might also attribute to the pitchers playing well when the hitters have so much excitement surrounding them.
Yeah, I think that's definitely it. And also, you never know what Cora brings back with him when
Okay, I shouldn't have said that. What do you think the pitchers are doing?
I don't know, maybe he
We're stealing the hitter signs?
maybe he just figured out, he took his vacation, and during that vacation he was like, how can I make the greatest substance of all time? And he got to work, he got rehired, and then bam, he just started smearing it all over their hands. I mean, left and right.
Okay, so you know what?
Or maybe
Can we talk hold on. Let's talk about substances, right? Hold on. I'm gonna do a quick reenactment of Garrett Cole thinking about what substance he was using. He was just like he couldn't even think of anything to say.
I'm not saying the Red Sox are in the wrong, but maybe they were in the right and they were just behind the times. They didn't get the memo that everyone was using substances, and they're like, we're getting mashed around, what's going on? And then they're like, oh, everyone's using pine tar. They start using it, and they start leveling up,
Okay, you know what? Sure. Because honestly, I know most pitchers are using it. I mean, what was it? Trevor Bauer got called out on it and then let up 4 runs at his next start. I mean, there's a video, I think, of Trevor Bauer demonstrating to another pitcher where to put it so you don't get caught.
Really? I haven't even.
Yeah, like there's a video of him putting on his gloves, showing another dude how to do it.
That doesn't even surprise me. I mean, we've talked about this in depth, and at first I feel like we were more outraged than we are now. But at this point, it's like, who cares? It's like, if the MLB can't figure it out, there's no point in complaining about it. Like, it's on them. They've got to make the tough decision. There's a reason why Manfred's the commissioner and I'm not. So you know what? He can figure it out. And until then, until I take over baseball at some point later in life, it can be a mess. But for now, like you said, Garrett Cole, that was pretty tough to watch. I mean,
it was funny. That was so funny.
It's just like, he's like, they asked him, how's he ever? And he's like, he couldn't even answer. I mean, it was like, he was like, I'm not going to just blatantly lie because everyone would know I'm lying, but I'm not also going to just say, yeah, you know what, I use it on all my starts. So he kind of had to just like be like, no comment, which was just like, everyone's like, yeah, what did you expect? But I mean, the Yankees as a whole, talk about another team that's flip-flopped. Our pitching has been great. We've had a pretty low ERA throughout. Our bullpen has been solid. I mean, not in recent starts. We've given us some runs late in games. But overall, our pitching has been much better than I expected it to be. It's the lineup that's been the severe issue as a Yankees fan. I'm watching guys just fail to drive in runs when we have opportunities. We're not getting that solid production from the leadoff spot when LeMahieu's up there. So it's been tough to watch our lineup just struggle. So there's not much more to say about the Yankees besides the fact that, 33-30, there's this team still has the talent to turn the season around. There's still 100 games left to play, but it's how much money can you spend on creating a lineup before you start to get fed up that it's not producing? I mean, it's getting a bit out of hand. So they got to figure something out. It just clearly just isn't working right now, and we keep trying to. It feels like at this point, every season I've been optimistic about the outcome, but it feels like at this point, looking back, it feels like it's like we're just throwing on patches and air keeps leaking out somewhere else, and it's like we're trying to fix it, and it's just something else is going wrong. So, yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you, what do you attribute the offense not working to? Because, I mean, when you think about it and you have LeMahieu, Judge, Torres, Stanton, I don't know if he's DHing right now or what he's doing, and it doesn't feel like it's necessarily injuries right now. Like, I know 1 or 2 guys are out. I don't know. But what is it that's just not working? Are the players just not as good anymore?
Well, I wouldn't like to say that, obviously, but what I will say is, first of all, I think LeMahieu is just a big part of this lineup that hasn't shown up. I didn't want to voice his opinion during the offseason because it was it was like I couldn't bring myself to say it. The fact that he is older, and there was as much as like it's easy to be like, oh yeah, I was thinking this. Honestly, like during that offseason, and we were all like, oh, signing LeMahieu is priority number one. There was a small part of me, and granted, had I done it again, I still would have signed LeMahieu, but there was a small part of me that was like, is it sustainable for him to be a 340 hitter, or is there regression bound? And signing him to whatever we did 5, 6, 7 years, like there was concern there because yeah, we got him at a bargain price, but I knew that it was like, look at what he did before he came to the Yankees, right? He was a 280 hitter, and that was like his best, and it was really good, and that's what we got him to do was hit 280, and he explodes on the scene, and for like 230 games, he backed like 340, and it's like, okay, there's a part of you that's like, is he going to be a 340 hitter for the rest of his life? I mean, it was hard to imagine him having that success, and I hope he did, and he hasn't, and that's been a huge part of this lineup. And then you look at, Stanton, who actually has been pretty good, honestly, for Yankee Stanton, but he's dealt with injuries. Voit hasn't been in the lineup, and Judge has actually been done really well. So, you look at guys that need to produce in big spots, the smaller pieces of our lineup, and the more guys that just kind of slap the ball around. Torres, LeMahieu, Hicks, who's now out for the season, who was non-existent. Those guys didn't show up for us, and the lineup just kind of fell apart. So that's where we are right now, honestly.
Yeah, one more thing about the Yankees. Remember when you traded us Adam Ottavino? 2.77 ERA? I mean, that's another thing that occurred to me. Red Sox bullpen, a whole lot better. Adam Ottavino, he's been very good, bad last year, but just wanted to point that out to increase the pain and suffering you were feeling in this moment.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, man. Really, really try and do that when I can.
That would have hurt more if our pitching was the problem, It's like, it just doesn't make sense to me. This team is a team that should be offense first. And I don't know. I feel like pitching around the league has gotten better this year, which could attribute to it. And it's tough to say. I don't know. What we've seen so many no-hitters. Let's talk about that for a second, because pitching has become really, really good. It's getting to a point where it's getting a bit concerning. I mean, yeah, we're still seeing run production, but home run or strikeout, the longer we go, the more strikeouts we're seeing and the more solid pitching. We haven't seen a no-hitter in a while, but for that month or so, it felt like there was one every other night. And I think that is a bit representative of baseball pitching right now. Won't you agree?
Yeah, and I mean, there's two things I would maybe attribute that to. One is that we had a 60-game season, and there are, like, I feel like if this is a 60-game season, you look at it, and LeMahieu, he was just atrocious. But expect LeMahieu to not bat 340 this year, but bring up the average to 270, 280. That's what happens over 162 games. But they didn't. Hitters only got to play 60 games last year, so nobody got really into like the spring of things when you're 100 games in and you're feeling good. And so maybe they didn't have as much experience last year. That's another thing. And then this just comes back up in pretty much every baseball conversation you can have is what's happening with pitchers and putting substances on the ball, right? It's just like, we don't know what's going on. There's no simple test. I know umpires are supposed to be cracking down. The league's supposed to be cracking down. But we've already said this. You can't crack down on everybody unless you want to just play major league games in AAA stadiums and say, yeah, that's how we're going to do this with AAA pitchers. So I guess it's the substances. That's probably what it is.
Honestly, it is. And, I mean, speaking of AAA games, I mean, there were a few minor leaguers that were suspended due to substance use. What do you think about that? That seems that seems ridiculous to me. I mean, it's as if you have a parent who's like, uh, has like, oh yeah, you can't do this. You're coming up. You got to do things the right way. No cheating down here. And then it's like, oh, but once you make it, everyone's cheating. So I don't know. Like that made no sense to me.
I don't know. I didn't hear about this, but from what I can think is like, it's like, hey, look, there's some AAA players. They don't really matter. Nobody cares. Let's go crack down on them and make an example out of them. But that's not how it works. If you want to do this, suspend Bauer, suspend Cole, and suspend the big pitchers. And although it takes away interest from baseball, that's the way you have to go around doing it, I think. Like, if you want to really stop this, that's how you have to go about doing it. Otherwise, you just might as well say, we don't care.
Yeah, but to add on to that, if you suspend Bauer, right? Let's just say you go after the big fish in this conversation. I mean, that's a PR nightmare. First of all, everyone goes crazy, and I think that does. However, I do think that would scare a lot of pitchers. But at the same time, it's like, how can you suspend Bauer and not suspend others? Like, then you have to deal with that whole argument because that's just not fair. And so I don't know. It's tough to go about it. I think we've talked about this in depth. We'll just see what they do. Let's move on to the team that Bauer plays for, the Dodgers, the Giants, and the Padres, which are just in a three-way battle right now, which has turned into the best division in baseball. And where did the Giants come from?
I don't know. I mean, you're looking at it. I've seen the memes on Instagram. It's like the Godzilla versus King Kong, or just two Godzillas fighting each other. It's the Dodgers versus the Padres bullpen, and then they're just getting chased away by the Giants rotation. And it's just been like, these guys should not be dominant. I mean, the first name that comes to mind is Kevin Gausman. Played for the Baltimore Orioles. My dad's a big Orioles fan. Had him on his fantasy team for a while. Gausman was just hurt. He was terrible. He leaves the Orioles, he goes to the Giants, and it makes you wonder, either they got some real nice substance over there, again, I'm talking about it, or they got some good pitching coach. We don't know. And I guess that's what I attribute it to. And then older guys playing well, Brandon Crawford, Brandon Belt, and Buster Posey. Those guys have been great this season, so I guess that's it also.
Right, and, it goes in order right now, I believe. I don't know the order. I know Giants are in first with 39 wins, and then Padres and Dodgers have 38 and 37. Not sure if that's the correct order, but that division is stacked, and the Giants keep winning somehow. It's like I keep checking my phone, like, okay, when are they going to start losing and drop down in second and third and then stay there? And then they just keep hanging on to first place. So the question I have for you is, if you look at this franchise and you're the general manager of this franchise, are you like thinking about what is going to happen next year? Because for me, even though it's a good start to the season, do you honestly feel like, yeah, we can carry this momentum forward to the next couple seasons? Or do you like, is this just a miracle happening for us, and then next season we're going to fall back to what we were? Like, where has this come from, and is it sustainable?
Well, my question is immediately, is my pitching staff going to be this good for the rest of the season, for next year? And if I can honestly answer that question as they're going to be this good, or they're going to come back down to earth a little bit and pitch a little bit worse, and we're still going to finish third in the division, but that's going to be a wild card third, then I'm going to say, let's go figure it out. Let's go trade for some good players. Let's see if we can get one big signing the offseason. But if I'm like, we have these older guys on offense that are producing right now but aren't going to produce at the end of the season, and we've got these pitchers that have never done this before, they're not gonna do this again. I'm gonna be like, well, let's see how this goes this year. Then during the off season, let's trade some of these guys if we can, get some younger guys, and see if we can build around that. Because I don't even remember, like 4 or 5 years ago, was that when the Giants won the World Series? Maybe 6 years ago.
6, 7, because I believe it was 2010, 2012, 2014.
Yes, they were really good. And you wonder if that team with Buster Posey and Brandon Crawford and Brandon Belt, like if those guys can do that again, and I think not. So if I'm the general manager, I have to ask myself that question. But if I personally was the general manager, I would be like, let's see how we do this year in this tough division, and then let's rebuild, because I don't see it as sustainable.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I don't get the feeling that this is gonna continue over the next couple seasons. It seems like the team doesn't have enough youth, and it just seems like they're all firing at the right time, and it feels like maybe that is enough energy where they believe in themselves and they believe they can win, and it could carry them through the rest of the season. But it also feels like an off season could end that streak just by itself with no necessary player with no player downfall per se. Just the offseason itself could, like, I'm thinking of, like, just take LeMahieu, for example, somebody batting 340. When you're batting that high, you have a confidence that every time you can get a hit. And just an offseason alone, you get back in the box and you're like, all right, now I got to prove to myself that I can do this for another season. And that alone can be enough to, like, end a hot streak. Just enough time in between. So we'll see what happens. But we thought it was going to be a 2-team race. It's a 3-team race, and it's fun to watch. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm looking. I know some names on the Giants that are younger, and honestly, it's actually really good to build around them. There's Marco Luciano, shortstop. He's I think a top 10 prospect. Joey Bart, I don't know if he's a top 10 prospect, but he might be the highest rated catcher prospect and was a top 10 draft pick. Then you got Mike Yastrzemski in the outfield. I know he's getting older, 28 or 29, but he's got a lot of reps left in him. I mean, he's been in the minors for so long, and he's a really good player. So to be honest, if you look at Posey's contract gonna run out at the end of this season, and you've got Joey Bart coming up, Brandon Crawford, don't know how much time he's got left in him, Marco Luciano. You got some guys that you can either trade, like some older guys that you can trade, and you can restart this franchise pretty quickly. They're in a good spot right now where they're winning, and then they've got a future also. So this division is feeling like AL East 2.0 almost, because the teams are better right now. Although if the Yankees get it together, we're going to have some nightmarish things when one of the Red Sox, Rays, Yankees, or Blue Jays aren't going to get a wild card spot. So
yeah, it's going to be very interesting. But like you said, it's you can't complain if you're a Giants fan right now, for sure. I mean, you take it one game at a time and you enjoy it. On to the NL division, that's the very opposite, in my mind, the worst division in baseball, and this is the West with,
not the West.
No,
just the West.
Sorry. With the Mets, the Braves, the Phillies battling it out for first place, and only two of them, one team in that division has a winning record right now, and it is the Mets, and they're 7 games over 500, so that's better than you would expect. First of all, they are 31-24, but they haven't played as many games as other people in baseball. However, they're relying on good pitching right now from DeGrom specifically, and from some other starters that have been able to perform. They're not producing a lot of runs, and they're in a really weak division. It's ridiculous at this point, because I'm so surprised that the Braves have been this bad. I mean, they were first place in my mind from start to finish, and then they're sitting here 29-32. What is going on?
It's a combination of both the hitting and the pitching. I mean, you lose Marcell Ozuna for the entire season. That's not going to help you. And anyway, he wasn't playing as well. And then you've got two guys who are playing well. I mean, Acuna's been amazing. Freeman's been good. But then, and Albies and Swanson and Austin Riley's been good. But then you think about it, we're in North Carolina, so we get Braves games. At least I get Braves games and nothing else. So I know the players at the bottom of the lineup, but I don't know if you can name them, Asher. I mean, you're looking at them like this whole stable of people are like, this isn't the Braves from last year. And then the pitching hasn't been good either. I mean, Max Fried was atrocious at the start of the season. Ian Anderson has been solid. You're not getting Mike Soroka back probably for the whole year. And the bullpen just being mediocre this season. So it's been a year filled with mediocrity. And don't get me wrong, I still expect them to compete with the Mets first place and definitely go above 500. But it's just not what you were expecting when you have so many superstars on this team.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, last year you're looking at a very explosive team with a young lineup um, that overshadowed their pitching problems completely. And I would say that they didn't even have that many pitching problems. I mean,
No.
their starting rotation worked well enough. Their bullpen worked well enough, and it supported a lineup that outpowered basically any team in baseball. They could compete with any team in baseball. And it's just not working right now. And you're looking at a division with one team over 500, and it's the New York Mets, who we trashed all off season. But they're winning. But it feels like they shouldn't be in first place right now. This is not a division they should be in first place in. But they are by like 4 games. So, you know, you got to give them a bit of credit that they are 7 games over 500. And, you know, you've got to give DeGrom all the credit in the world because he's absolutely phenomenal right now on both sides of the baseball. I mean, he's hitting the baseball better than some of the guys in that lineup. And so, yeah, the Mets, is it a fluke? It's 60 games at this point. Or is it just look way better than it is because they don't have a single team with over 35 wins in that division?
It looks a lot better than it is. Now, you stick them in the AL East or the NL West, they're 4th in the NL West, 5th in the AL East. And it's just, well, maybe not 5th. I'm not sure about win percentage things, but it's just like this team doesn't belong here, but they're here because they have a weak division and their pitching is just being dominant. DeGrom is clearly far and away the best pitcher in baseball right now. And he's being vouched for no substances, which I find hard to believe. But I mean, you had the catcher, you had pretty much every hitter on the team come out and say DeGrom doesn't use substances. And it's not totally compelling, but it is more compelling than anything I've gotten from Garrett Cole's teammates or Trevor Bauer's teammates, right? So
Yeah.
that's the thing. But pitching Jameson Taillon, Marcus Stroman, extremely dominant. So that's how they're winning the division, because certainly Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, and those guys have nothing to do with it right now.
No, I mean, you look at the batting averages on this team, and they're absolutely atrocious. But if DeGrom's not using substances, that would blow me away. And I would also expect him to be more outspoken against it. Like, that's where I'm like, really, he goes out of his way to not use substances, but doesn't talk about it. If I was the only pitcher in the league not using substances and I was dominant, I would be yelling from the top of the mountain saying, everyone's using substances. I'm not. We got to crack down on this, because you have to realize my achievements right now are like 50 times more impressive if the rest of these pitchers aren't using substances. So that's where I'm like, really, he's not using substances. Bauer tried to come out against it a few seasons ago, and then he gave up. I haven't ever even seen DeGrom really talk about it.
Yeah.
But if he's not, that's even more incredible. I mean,
yeah, I was going to say something. The only thing I could think of for him not coming out against it is that the rest of the pitching staff is just jacking the balls up. Because although Marcus Stroman's a good pitcher, don't get me wrong, he's not a 2.30 ERA pitcher. And it makes me think, like, you see these guys break out. Trevor Bauer 2 years ago when he started using substances. Kevin Gausman is not that kind of pitcher, but all of a sudden we have a 2.5 ERA or 2.05 ERA. And it's just like Brandon Woodruff, he has been a good pitcher, don't get me wrong, but he has been so good this year. And then he got caught, I think, in a video putting stuff on his glove. And it's just like, yeah, these guys go good, decent pitchers, don't get me wrong, but there's a reason why the batting average in Major League Baseball is just going like that. It's just down all the way.
It's true. Now, do you think what about the bad pitchers that are probably using substances? Like, are they just like awful? Because
it's like a brain teaser almost. Like, which pitcher is using a substance, and then are they just having breakout years and we're attributing it to it? Or are some of them having breakout years and some of them using substances? Or are the bad pitchers the only ones not using substances? It's like we just don't know. And that's why we keep, like, this conversation has come up 3 times because it's involved in every aspect of baseball right now. And one thing I want to see is I am very excited for Josh Donaldson's list. Like, if he comes out with a full list of dudes using it and he is correct, that would be amazing.
But where is he even getting this list from? Like, I
Just
haven't
played with, I guess. He's been on 2 other teams before the Twins, right? I know he played for the Blue Jays. I think one other team.
played for the Blue Jays, and he played for some reason, did he play for the Braves?
I think you're right. Yes, I think you are right.
But yeah, I haven't been following his stories too closely just because, I see a notification about substances like every other day, so I don't click on everything. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, it's definitely getting to a boiling point of where stuff has to happen. In some regard, we're going to get more information. But yeah, it's interesting to watch this NL division struggle all over the place and the Mets be the team coming out on top. And I don't think this season will end that way, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I really hope the Braves get it together because I feel like they deserve that division much more so than the.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know. We had a discussion about this before the season, and we saw some predictions. It had the Mets winning, and I was just like, no, that's not going to happen. But I don't think I think it was Pacoda we saw, projected the Mets to be 7 games above 500. I mean, they could be 7 games above 500 at the end of the season and win the division. So
Yeah,
we'll just have to wait and see with this division. It's just so mind-blowingly bad.
Yeah, I mean, baseball this whole season has felt a little weird in terms of just the different teams kind of coming out of nowhere, and then some of the different pitching stuff and the no-hitters. So, it feels like I keep checking the standings and saying, oh, it's still early, and then I realize it's been a good chunk of games. So it's a solid sample size to go on, and we'll keep talking about it. We're going to keep coming out with videos now that it's summer. We really do enjoy them. We just have so many schedule problems, but looking forward, it's looking pretty good. And thank you guys. If you're coming back for the first time in a while, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like. Armored Scott, his Red Sox World Series.
Yeah, get another one this year.
You're no chance. On that note, we're ending it, even though that's an awful note. But we'll see you guys next time.